The 19-year-old alien princess mocked the human soldier, so he took off his armor and walked away. The battle had ended, but the ground still shook with the echoes of explosions. Smoke rose from the wreckage of alien ships and craters where humans had barely survived. The air smelled sharp and metallic. Alex Gray, a young human soldier of 22, walked carefully over the broken terrain. His armor was scratched, dented, and scorched from the fight, but he moved steadily. Around him, other soldiers were tending to the wounded or scavenging supplies. Silence, broken by distant groans or the crack of shifting metal, seemed heavier than any enemy fire. In the distance, a figure moved among the alien ruins. Lyra, the 19-year-old alien princess, floated above the battlefield, her thin frame wrapped in the flowing robes of her rank. Her eyes, bright and cold, scanned the humans like a hawk watching prey. She had watched the battle with a mix of curiosity and amusement, expecting the humans to fall in panic. Instead, they had fought with stubborn energy, refusing to die even when surrounded. It annoyed her. She did not like being surprised by anything, especially not humans. Alex paused to check a wounded comrade, a man named Ben Carter who had a deep cut across his arm. "You'll be fine, Ben," Alex said softly, pressing a cloth to stop the bleeding. Ben gave a weak nod, trusting Alex more than anyone else in their unit. Alex had a quiet presence that people found steady, even in the chaos of war. He had never sought attention, never tried to be heroic. Yet somehow his calm energy kept others from panicking. Lyra's attention turned to him suddenly. She floated closer, her voice carrying across the battlefield, cold and sharp. "Look at you," she said, her tone dripping with mockery. "Hiding behind your metal toys, is that all humans can do? Cover themselves in armor and pretend they are strong?" Alex did not reply. He simply tightened the straps on his armor and kept moving. The princess's laughter rang high and clear, echoing among the wreckage. Other humans heard it and glanced nervously in her direction, their faces tense with anger. Lisa Morrow, another soldier, muttered under her breath, "Why does she have to be so cruel?" Ben glanced at Alex. "You're not going to answer her?" he asked quietly. Alex shook his head. "Sometimes words only make things worse," he said. His voice was calm, almost soft, but there was a firmness in it that made Ben step back. Alex had always believed in actions over words. Talking back to someone like Lyra would only give her satisfaction. The alien princess floated closer still, circling him slowly, her robes waving in the wind. "I cannot believe humans survive at all," she said. "You are slow, weak, and predictable. If I had removed your armor in the middle of battle, you would have died instantly." She smiled, sharp and cruel. "Tell me, human, do you even know what fear is, or do you only know how to hide behind your machines?" Alex looked at her, his face calm. He did not raise his voice, he did not tighten his fists. He simply let her words pass through him without reaction. The princess frowned. She was not used to people ignoring her, especially not someone so young and unremarkable to her eyes. "What?" "No answer," she demanded, her tone rising. "You are pathetic, a true weakling. Your species is nothing but animals wearing metal shells." The words stung, but Alex did not show it. He kept moving toward the center of the ruined battlefield, where other humans were gathering supplies and checking their wounded. He noticed the bodies of fallen comrades, alien and human alike, and felt the weight of loss quietly pressing on his chest. He did not shout, he did not curse. He simply acknowledged the reality that war was cruel and survival was never easy. Lyra tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. She expected fear, anger, or at least some attempt at self-defense. Instead, he walked calmly, almost slowly, like he was not even afraid of her words. It confused her. She was not used to being ignored, not by anyone, let alone a human soldier who had just fought against her people. She floated closer and let her voice drop to a softer, mocking tone. "Do you even care what I think, human? Do you not feel shame for being so weak?" Alex stopped for a moment and looked up at her, his eyes steady. "Strength is not always about fighting or proving yourself to others," he said simply. "Sometimes strength is knowing when to keep moving forward, even when others try to tear you down." Lyra's eyes narrowed. She did not like that answer. It was not the fear she expected, nor was it anger. It was something she could not read, and that annoyed her deeply. "How boring," she said, floating back slightly. "Humans are strange creatures, always thinking they are clever when they are nothing but fragile shells of flesh and bone." Other humans noticed the exchange. Whispers ran through their ranks. Some were confused, some were worried. Alex Gray, a man they had always seen as ordinary, was facing an alien princess alone and unafraid. It was almost unbelievable. Yet there he stood, calm and firm, letting her mockery fall harmlessly around him. Lyra decided to test him further. She waved her hand, and a small surge of energy shot toward him, not enough to harm him, but enough to make the air around him shimmer and ripple. Alex felt the heat of the energy, but he did not flinch. He adjusted his stance slightly, careful not to overreact, and kept moving. "You are very boring, human," Lyra said. Her voice held both frustration and fascination. She had expected fear, but instead found patience, determination, and a calm she could not understand. "I will remember this," she said, turning to float back toward her troops. "A human who does not care for armor, weapons, or threats. Curious." Alex did not respond. He continued helping his team, checking on the wounded, gathering supplies, and preparing to move back to their temporary camp. The other soldiers, watching him, felt a quiet pride. He did not fight for glory or recognition. He fought because it was necessary, because it was right. As night fell, the battlefield grew quiet. Fires from destroyed alien machinery lit the area with flickering red light. The air smelled of smoke, metal, and burnt vegetation. Alex sat briefly near a crater, helping a young soldier named Emily Fletcher bandage her arm. She winced, but did not complain much. Alex's hands were steady and precise, even after hours of constant movement. "Why does she hate us so much?" Emily asked softly, her eyes still watching the sky for any signs of alien patrols. Alex did not answer immediately. He looked out over the field, watching shadows stretch across the broken ground. "She does not hate," he said finally. "She misunderstands. She thinks weakness is shameful and humans do not always show their strength the way she expects." Emily looked puzzled. "So she is just wrong?" Alex smiled faintly. "In some ways, yes, but that is not your concern. Our concern is survival and keeping each other safe." The night grew colder, and the soldiers gathered around small fires, sharing warmth and quiet conversation. Lyra's presence hovered like a shadow in Alex's mind. He knew she would not stop mocking him, but he also knew that words alone could not define him. He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering why he fought, why he endured. Humans were not just flesh and blood, he thought. They were will and spirit, determination and choice. No armor, no weapon, no threat could change that. Somewhere in the darkness, the alien princess watched him from a distance. She had expected a broken man, a frightened soldier, or at least someone desperate for her approval. Instead, she found quiet strength, patience, and calm. It puzzled her and stirred something unfamiliar, respect mixed with confusion. Alex did not know that Lyra was watching. He only knew that he had survived another battle and he had kept his composure. He had let words pass, actions speak, and human endurance shine quietly. In a world of metal, fire, and alien superiority, he had found something more powerful, his own self-control. And for the first time, the battlefield felt less like a place of fear and more like a place where humans could stand. No matter the odds, the night was quiet after the battle, but the air was still heavy with smoke and heat. Alex Gray sat near a small fire, staring at the broken pieces of armor scattered around him. His mind wandered over the events of the day, the mocking voice of Lyra, the alien princess, echoing in his ears. She had insulted him, called him weak, and laughed at humanity as if they were insects. Yet Alex felt no anger, only a steady understanding. The armor that weighed him down had protected him during the fight, but it had also separated him from what he truly was. He looked down at his hands, the skin scratched and burned from the battle. His fingers ached, not from the fight itself, but from the constant pressure of being hidden behind metal. He realized that he had spent his life learning to survive inside armor, trusting it to make him strong, when real strength was something deeper. Alex stood slowly, his movements careful so as not to wake the other soldiers. Ben Carter was asleep near the fire, and Emily Fletcher shifted on the ground, injured but resting. Lisa Morrow, tired from tending the wounded, muttered in her sleep. Alex did not disturb them. He did not want anyone to see what he was about to do until it was done. He reached down and began removing his armor piece by piece. First came the helmet, which he placed gently on the ground. Then the chest plate, heavy and dented, was lifted off his shoulders with a deep sigh. As each piece came off, he felt lighter, freer, and strangely exposed. The air touched his skin directly for the first time in hours, and it felt sharper, colder, and yet more alive. Lisa stirred and saw what he was doing. "Alex, what are you doing?" she asked softly, worry in her voice. Alex did not look at her. "I need to walk," he said simply. "Alone? Alone? Are you crazy? The princess could attack at any moment," Lisa said, her voice rising in alarm. "Without armor, you'll be dead in minutes." Alex shook his head. "I am not afraid of her words or her attacks. Fear is what makes us weak. I want to see if I can stand without this armor. If I can survive as I am, then armor is a choice, not a crutch." Ben stirred and sat up, his eyes wide. "You mean you're just going to go out there like that, unprotected?" Alex nodded. "Yes, unprotected. I want to see what humans are really capable of, beyond metal and weapons." The other soldiers tried to argue, tried to convince him to keep even part of his armor, but Alex remained calm. There was no pride in his face, no anger, only quiet determination. Finally, they realized he would not change his mind. Ben gave a resigned sigh. "Then, may your instincts keep you alive," he said, almost in a whisper. Alex took a deep breath and stepped onto the rough, broken ground outside the small human camp. The wind was cold and harsh against his bare skin, and dust from the destroyed battlefield swirled around him. He walked slowly, carefully, each step measured, as though he were learning the world anew. Lyra watched from above, floating silently among the shadows. She had expected him to tremble, to panic, or to collapse the moment he left his armor. Instead, she saw a human moving steadily, without hesitation, without fear. Curiosity replaced mockery in her mind. She followed him, keeping a careful distance, wondering how long this human could survive. The terrain was brutal. Broken metal, sharp rocks, and uneven ground threatened to trip him with every step. A low wind carried the scent of smoke and scorched earth. Yet Alex moved steadily. He felt pain in his muscles, the chill of the night, and the vulnerability of being unprotected, but he also felt something he had not felt in years: clarity. He was human, alive, and entirely dependent on himself. He came across a shallow crater where a group of alien soldiers had fallen in the battle. Their weapons were still smoking, and their bodies were strewn in unnatural positions. Alex paused to observe them, not with fear, but with a quiet respect. Life was fragile, but the mind and will could endure even when the body was hurt. Lyra floated closer, her eyes narrowed. She tested him, sending small bursts of energy toward his path. Each time, Alex felt the heat and pressure but adjusted his step to avoid direct contact. He did not fight back, he did not shout or flinch. He simply moved, using patience and timing rather than strength. "Amazing," Lyra whispered to herself. She had never seen a human endure without armor, without weapons, without relying on anything but themselves. She had thought humans were weak, dependent creatures, but here was one walking calmly across a battlefield she believed would destroy him instantly. Hours passed. Alex kept moving, never stopping for long. He drank from a small canteen, ate the last of his rations, and rested briefly in the shadow of a large, wrecked ship. His body ached. His skin was raw from exposure, but he did not complain. He was aware of every sensation: the cold bite of the wind, the weight of exhaustion, the pressure of the ground under his bare feet. At one point, he encountered a small alien creature, wounded and struggling. Its legs were broken, and it looked at him with fear. Alex knelt slowly, careful not to scare it further. He helped it move to a safer spot, using his hands and patience. It did not run away. It stayed still, watching him. Alex realized that strength was not just surviving the environment, it was also in helping others survive. Lyra observed silently from above. Each act Alex performed was unexpected. He was not showing off, not seeking glory. He was simply being human, and in that he was stronger than most of her people. She had grown up seeing strength measured by weapons, power, and dominance. Yet here was a human proving something she could not understand with metal alone. As dawn approached, the first pale light of the sun spread across the battlefield. Alex paused on a small ridge and looked down. Below him, the ruined alien and human forces stretched out like broken toys. He had survived the night without armor, without weapons, relying only on his mind, his body, and his will to continue. Lyra descended slowly, landing a short distance away. She expected exhaustion to mark him, weakness to appear, but he stood tall, his posture steady and his eyes clear. "You are still alive," she said, her voice quieter than before. How is this possible? Humans are supposed to be weak." Alex looked at her calmly. "Strength is not about metal, energy, or firepower," he said simply. It is about endurance, patience, and choice. I could have stayed behind armor, fighting safely. Instead, I chose to face the world as I am. Humans survive because we adapt, not because we hide. Lyra's expression shifted. She could not understand his words fully, but she could see the truth in his actions. He had walked through a battlefield without protection and survived. He had moved carefully, observed, and helped others. He had shown courage in a way she had never seen before. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind blew across the ridge, carrying the scent of smoke, dust, and early morning dew. Alex finally turned and began walking back toward the human camp, slow and steady, leaving Lyra watching from the shadows. She felt something unfamiliar, respect mixed with confusion. He had not fought her directly, had not tried to prove himself, yet he had shown a form of strength far beyond what she had imagined. She had mocked him, yet he had walked away from her mockery without fear. He had made a choice that could have ended in death, and he had survived. Alex reached the camp as the first humans began to stir from sleep. Lisa and Ben watched him approach, eyes wide with astonishment. Emily, still weak from her injuries, looked at him with a mixture of awe and relief. You did it," she said softly. Alex nodded, breathing heavily, his skin scratched and red from exposure. "I am alive," he said simply. "That is enough for now." Lisa shook her head, still worried. "You could have been killed. Why did you do it?" Alex looked out at the sunrise, the light touching the ruined battlefield and the shadows of alien machines. "Because armor is not what makes us strong. Humans survive because we endure, because we choose, because we continue even when the odds are against us. If I had stayed behind armor, I would have survived safely, but I would not have learned what I am capable of." Ben clapped him on the shoulder, pride in his eyes. "Well, that's something few humans could do," he said. "You've shown them what we're made of." Alex did not smile broadly, but a quiet satisfaction warmed him. He had faced the world without protection and survived. He had proven something not just to the alien princess, but to himself and every human who had watched him. He had shown that strength was not in weapons, not in armor, but in courage, patience, and choice. And somewhere above the battlefield, Lyra watched silently, realizing that perhaps humans were more than she had ever imagined. She had mocked them, yet one human had walked away from armor and mockery and had proven something she could not ignore. Alex did not know she was watching. He only knew that he had walked through the battlefield as himself, without disguise, without protection, and without fear. And that alone was enough to change everything. The morning sun rose over the broken battlefield, casting long shadows across the twisted metal and scorched earth. Alex Gray moved steadily through the ruins, his bare feet brushing against jagged rocks and fragments of alien machinery. Every step was cautious, every movement deliberate. The night without armor had tested him, but now the day brought new challenges: heat, sharp light, and the knowledge that Lyra, the alien princess, was still watching. He walked slowly, breathing deeply, letting his body adjust to the harsh air. The battlefield was eerily quiet, only the faint hiss of cooling fires and distant alien noises breaking the silence. Alex knew the princess would not leave him alone. She had mocked him, followed him, and now she was watching to see if he could survive without metal and weapons. He did not fear her. He only moved forward, trusting his instincts and his body. The terrain was cruel. Broken craters and twisted metal littered the ground, making every step dangerous. The heat of the day pressed down on him, and the wind carried dust that stung his eyes. Yet he continued slowly, steadily, adjusting his movements with careful thought. Every rock, every broken shard of metal became part of his awareness. He was human, and humans adapted. Lyra floated above, observing with sharp eyes. She could not understand how he moved so steadily without fear. The other humans would have stumbled, panicked, or cried out. Yet Alex's movements were calm, almost elegant in their precision. He did not rush. He did not panic. He simply adapted, learning the landscape with each step. She frowned, frustrated and curious. No human had ever faced her world like this before. He paused near a shallow ravine, where the ground had cracked open from an explosion during the battle. The air smelled sharp and burnt, and small alien plants had begun to recover from the destruction. Alex knelt to examine a small, wounded alien creature trapped among the rubble. Its legs were twisted, and it seemed terrified of him at first. Alex spoke softly, his voice calm and steady, soothing the creature without expecting anything in return. He used careful hands to move the creature to safety, showing patience and care instead of strength or aggression. Lyra watched closely, unable to hide her fascination. He was not just surviving, he was observing, learning, and acting with intelligence and kindness. He had walked through fire and metal, through danger and insult, and still maintained his composure. It was a form of strength she had never imagined. He continued along the broken landscape, moving toward a higher ridge that overlooked the battlefield. The climb was difficult, sharp rocks cutting into his bare hands and feet. The wind grew stronger, whipping dust and sand into his skin, but he did not stop. Each movement was precise, each step measured. He did not rush and he did not panic. He simply climbed. Lyra floated closer, testing him again. She sent small bursts of energy toward him, not enough to kill, but enough to test his reactions. Alex felt the heat and pressure, but he adjusted his movements calmly, stepping aside, ducking, or continuing without showing fear. He did not fight back and he did not curse. He simply moved with awareness and patience. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, and the temperature grew harsh. Alex found a small, shaded area beneath a large, twisted piece of alien machinery and paused to rest. He drank from his canteen and ate a small ration, careful to conserve his energy. His body ached from the climb, from the exposure, and from the long hours without armor, but he did not complain. He understood pain and discomfort were part of survival. He welcomed them as teachers. He looked down at the battlefield, at the ruins of alien and human forces scattered below. It was a terrible sight, but also a reminder of why he endured. Humans were not the strongest species, nor were they the fastest, but they had something more. The will to keep going, the patience to adapt, and the courage to face the unknown. Lyra descended slightly, moving closer to him. She did not speak. She simply watched, trying to understand the human before her. She had mocked him, doubted him, and expected him to fail, yet he continued to move forward calmly, showing strength she could not comprehend. Alex continued walking after his brief rest, moving toward a narrow pass between jagged rocks. The path was dangerous, with sharp drops on either side and loose stones underfoot. One misstep could mean serious injury or death. Yet he moved carefully, testing each step before putting weight on it. He did not rush, and he did not panic. He trusted himself and his instincts. As he moved, he came across more wounded creatures and remnants of the battle. He helped where he could, using careful hands and quiet patience. He realized that survival was not just about enduring the environment, but also about helping others survive. His actions were not heroic in the traditional sense. They were simple, human acts of care, patience, and thoughtfulness. Lyra floated closer again, her expression conflicted. She had expected him to collapse, to falter, to cry out. Instead, he continued, methodical and calm. He was proving a truth she had never seen. Strength was not measured by power or weapons, but by endurance, patience, and will. The day grew hotter, and the terrain became even more difficult. The wind carried dust and small particles that scratched his skin, but Alex did not stop. He moved steadily, each step careful, each movement deliberate. The other humans would have panicked, but Alex trusted himself. He trusted his body, his mind, and his instincts. He paused briefly near a small stream of water, clear and cold from melted snow in a nearby ridge. He drank carefully, letting the water revive his body. He splashed some on his face, feeling the relief of the cool liquid against sunburned skin. He looked around and saw signs of alien life recovering from the battle, small creatures cautiously moving, plants beginning to sprout again. The world was harsh, but it also had the capacity to heal. Lyra watched quietly from above. She had expected a human to fail, yet he adapted. He observed, he moved carefully, he survived. It was not skill with weapons or armor that kept him alive, but patience, endurance, and awareness. She realized that perhaps humans were stronger than she had been taught. Hours passed and Alex continued moving toward the distant hills. The terrain grew steeper and more dangerous. He climbed with careful attention, his muscles screaming from exertion, his skin raw from the sun and dust, yet he did not stop. He had learned that fear and panic would only endanger him. Patience and careful observation allowed him to survive. He came across a small group of alien creatures caught in the wreckage of a destroyed machine. They were frightened and injured. Alex knelt, speaking softly, helping them out of harm's way. Lyra watched, realizing that this human strength was not just physical. It was in his mind, his awareness, his patience, and his care for others. He was alive not by chance, but by the choices he made and the calm he maintained. As night began to fall, Alex reached the top of a ridge overlooking the battlefield once again. He paused, exhausted but steady, watching the sun set over the ruins. He had survived the day, moving without armor, without weapons, and relying only on his body, his mind, and his will. He had shown that humans could endure more than most species imagined. Lyra floated beside him finally, silent for the first time. She studied him, her expression softening. She had mocked him, doubted him, and tested him, yet he had survived and adapted in ways she could not understand. She realized that perhaps humans were more than fragile creatures wearing metal shells. They were patient, aware, and capable of endurance that even her people could not match. Alex turned to her, his expression calm. "I survived," he said simply. "Not because I am stronger, not because I am faster, but because I endured. Humans survive because we adapt, we observe, and we keep moving forward even when the odds are against us." Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide with understanding and something new, respect. She had never expected to see a human survive like this. He had not fought her directly. He had not attacked or tried to prove himself. He had simply walked, observed, and endured. And in doing so, he had proven something far greater than any weapon or armor could show. Alex did not know she was watching so closely. He only knew that he had survived, that he had learned his own limits, and that he had proven the strength of the human spirit. He had walked through danger, endured pain, and kept moving forward. And in that, he had discovered a truth that could not be taken away. Strength comes not from protection, but from the will to continue. As the sun set, Alex began descending toward the human camp. He was tired, his skin was raw, and his muscles ached, but he moved steadily. He had faced the harshest parts of the battlefield without armor, survived, and grown stronger in ways no metal could give. Lyra watched him from the distance, silently acknowledging that the human before her had shown her people a new kind of strength, one that came not from weapons, not from armor, but from patience, awareness, and will. She floated higher, thinking carefully, knowing that this human had changed her understanding forever the morning after his long journey across the battlefield. Alex Gray awoke to the soft light of dawn. The fires from the destroyed alien machinery were almost gone, and the air smelled cleaner, with only the faint scent of dust and burned metal remaining. His body ached from the long day and night without armor, but he felt a quiet sense of pride and calm. He had survived not because of weapons or armor, but because of patience, awareness, and determination. He stepped carefully over the rocky terrain near the human camp, still bare of armor, letting the cool morning air touch his skin. The other soldiers were stirring, preparing for the day. Ben Carter gave him a nod, his face showing awe. Emily Fletcher, her injuries slightly better, looked at him with wonder. Lisa Morrow shook her head, clearly still worried, but also impressed. "You really did it," Ben said quietly. "I've never seen anyone do what you did." Alex smiled faintly. "It was not about showing off, it was about learning what we are capable of." Lisa frowned. "But the princess, she is still out there. What if she attacks?" Alex shook his head. "She has been watching. She will not attack me without reason. What she has learned is more dangerous than any attack. She has seen what humans endure." As he spoke, a shadow passed over the camp. Alex looked up and saw Lyra floating above, her expression unreadable. She descended slowly, landing a short distance away. Her presence caused a stir among the humans. No one had approached this close to the princess before, and her calm, confident movements made it clear that she was no longer mocking. She was observing carefully, studying the human who had walked through her world without protection. Alex did not flinch. He did not raise his hands in defense. He simply stood, bare-skinned, unarmed, and calm. He knew this was a test of a different kind, not the test of survival against a battlefield, but a test of understanding and respect. Lyra spoke first. "Human," she said, her voice softer than before. "You have survived where many would die. You have endured where most would panic. You have moved through my world with patience, with awareness, and without fear." Alex nodded slightly. "I survived because I had to, because humans endure, because I chose to keep moving." She studied him, her expression a mixture of curiosity and something else, respect. "I expected fear, weakness, collapse. Instead, you walked with calm. You helped others. You adapted to the world not by fighting it, but by observing it. Why?" "Because strength is not about fighting or proving oneself," Alex said simply. "Strength is about endurance, awareness, and choice. Anyone can swing a weapon or hide behind armor. It takes more to keep moving forward, to adapt, and to care for others along the way. Lyra floated closer, her eyes narrowing slightly as if trying to read him. You are different from other humans. I can see it. Most would have panicked, most would have failed. But you have something they do not. What is it? Alex looked at her calmly. It is not something special. It is what all humans can have if they choose. Patience, awareness, and endurance are in all of us. We survive not because we are strongest, but because we keep going when the world seems impossible. She looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then quietly she said, "Perhaps I underestimated your kind." The other soldiers watched in silence. They had seen Lyra mock humans, insult them, and claim they were weak. Now she stood before one human and spoke without mockery, her voice almost gentle. Alex realized that this moment was a turning point, not just for him, but for the relationship between humans and the alien forces. "What will you do now?" Lyra asked. "Will you continue to walk unprotected through my world? Will you challenge more than just survival?" Alex considered her words. He had already survived the battlefield without armor, and he had proven something about human endurance. But he knew there was more to learn, more to understand. "I will continue to move forward," he said. "I will endure. I will observe and learn, not to challenge you, but to understand and to survive." Lyra nodded slowly. "You are remarkable. You do not need weapons or armor to show strength. Your presence alone proves what your kind can endure. I have been taught to measure power by force and dominance, but you have shown me that strength can be calm, patient, and deliberate." Alex looked around at the camp, at his fellow soldiers who were staring at the princess in disbelief. He felt a quiet responsibility to them. He had walked through danger alone, but they depended on his example. "Strength is not in fighting alone," he said. "It is in endurance, awareness, and protecting those around you." Lyra studied him silently. For the first time, she seemed to see him not as a human to mock, but as an equal in spirit, someone who had endured challenges without reliance on external tools. She had expected a weakling, someone fragile and dependent. Instead, she found a being capable of calm strength and remarkable patience. She moved slightly closer, lowering herself to the ground near him. "Human, I must admit," she said softly, "I have never seen anything like this. Your kind is more capable than I imagined." Alex nodded. "You see now what humans can endure when they rely on their minds and spirits, not just on armor or weapons." Lyra's gaze softened. "Yes. I see, and I wonder, can others of your kind do what you did, or are you unique?" "Not unique," Alex said. "Any human can survive if they are patient, aware, and willing to endure. It is not about bravery alone or skill alone. It is about understanding limits, adapting, and continuing despite fear and discomfort." For a long moment, neither spoke. The sun climbed higher, casting light on the battlefield and the camp. Alex felt a quiet calm, knowing that he had survived not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. Lyra, in turn, seemed to consider her place and understanding of humans. She had mocked them, yet one human had shown her a type of strength she had never considered. Finally, she spoke. "Perhaps this changes things," she said. "You have survived where many would fail. You have endured without weapons or armor. You have shown patience, awareness, and care. Humans may be underestimated." Alex nodded. "I hope it changes more than that. I hope it teaches that strength is not always what you see, but what you endure quietly and steadily." Lyra's expression softened further. "Perhaps it does. Perhaps humans are stronger than I was taught, and perhaps I have much to learn from you." Alex looked at her calmly. He knew that words alone were not enough. Actions had proven more than speech ever could. He had walked through danger, endured hardship, and survived without reliance on metal or weapons. Now, Lyra had seen the proof, and understanding had begun to grow. The other soldiers watched quietly, some still nervous, some filled with pride. They realized that this moment was bigger than a single human or a single princess. It was a turning point, a moment where respect began to replace mockery, where understanding began to replace fear. Lyra finally stepped back slightly, her eyes still on Alex. "Human, I will not mock you again," she said softly. "You have shown me something remarkable. I will remember this." Alex nodded quietly. He did not need her praise. He had already learned what mattered: endurance, patience, and understanding. He had proven the strength of the human spirit, and that truth could not be taken away. As she rose to float above the camp, the wind carrying her robes gently, Alex turned his attention back to the human soldiers. They were waiting, watching him with respect and awe. He gave a small nod, acknowledging them, and began moving back toward the camp, steady and calm. Lyra watched silently from above, realizing that this human had changed her understanding of an entire species. She had mocked and doubted them, but now she saw that humans had a type of strength that was not measured in weapons, armor, or power. It was measured in endurance, patience, and will. Alex had walked through danger without protection, had endured pain and exhaustion, and had shown that human strength was more than physical. It was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Lyra understood now that this truth could not be ignored, and she would carry it forward in her own actions and decisions. As the day continued, Alex and the humans began to prepare for the next challenges. He felt tired, sore, and raw from the exposure, but he also felt a quiet satisfaction. He had survived, he had proven what humans could endure, and he had earned a measure of respect from one of the most powerful beings he had ever faced. And somewhere above, Lyra watched, silently acknowledging the human before her. He had survived without armor, without weapons, without reliance on anything but himself, and in doing so, he had proven a type of strength that few had ever seen. It was a strength born of patience, endurance, and understanding, a strength that would change how humans were seen in her world. Forever the sun rose higher over the battlefield, casting warm light on the twisted metal and broken earth. Alex Gray stood near the human camp, his bare feet still dirty from the long journey, his body tired but steady. He had endured nights and days without armor, faced danger, exhaustion, and the harsh alien world. Now, for the first time since the battle, he felt a quiet sense of completion. He had survived, he had proven himself, and he had shown what humans could endure. Lyra floated down from the sky, her expression calm but thoughtful. She had watched Alex for days, first with mockery, then with curiosity, and now with respect. She had expected to see a weak, fearful human, but instead she had witnessed patience, endurance, and intelligence beyond what she had imagined. Her eyes met his, and there was no mockery this time, only recognition. "Human," she said softly, "you have done what few of your kind could even imagine. You have walked through danger without protection, without weapons, relying only on your mind, your body, and your will. I do not understand all that drives you, yet I see your strength clearly now." Alex looked at her calmly. "I survived because I had to. Humans endure because we must, because we choose to continue even when the odds are against us. Armor and weapons can help, but real strength is inside us." She nodded slowly. "Then perhaps I have been wrong. We have always measured strength by dominance, by force, by power. But you have shown me something else. A human can survive, endure, and remain strong without relying on machines or weapons. That is remarkable." Alex smiled faintly. "It is not remarkable for humans. It is what we do. We adapt, we endure, we continue. It is who we are." The human soldiers watched silently, awe in their eyes. They had followed Alex through the battlefield, relying on his calm guidance, and now they saw the alien princess acknowledging what they had always known. Humans were resilient, patient, and strong in ways others could not measure. Lyra studied him carefully. "You have proven something to me, human, not just your strength, but your choices, your patience, and your endurance. You have shown me that humans are not fragile as we believed. Perhaps there is more we can learn from you than we realized." Alex nodded. "Strength is not only in fighting or winning battles. It is in survival, understanding, and protecting those who rely on you. We show courage not just by weapons, but by endurance and care." Lyra floated closer, observing the humans around the camp. "You have protected them, guided them, endured the hardships of this battlefield. Your strength is not in what you hold, but in who you are. That is unexpected." Alex looked at the camp, at his fellow soldiers tending the wounded, sharing water, and preparing for the next challenge. This is how humans survive, together, by enduring, by helping each other, by continuing despite fear and danger. Lyra nodded slowly, understanding forming in her mind. She had mocked humans, believed them weak, yet this one human had shown her that strength was not always visible. Endurance, patience, awareness, and care were as powerful as any weapon. She had learned something she could not ignore. "Then you are truly special," Lyra said quietly. "Not for your armor, not for your skill in battle, but for your spirit, your mind, your patience, your endurance. These are weapons of a kind we have not seen." Alex looked at her, calm and steady. Strength is not about showing off. It is about surviving, understanding, and protecting others. That is what humans do. The other soldiers exchanged glances. They had seen Alex endure unimaginable conditions, survive without armor, and remain calm under insult and danger. Now, the alien princess acknowledged it openly. Their respect for him grew even more, and they felt a quiet pride in what they could achieve as humans. Lyra's gaze softened. You have changed what I believed. You have shown me that humans are more than flesh and bone. They endure, adapt, and survive because of who they are, not what they wear. I cannot ignore that. Alex nodded. I do not need praise. I only need to survive and to show that humans can endure. Others will see this in time. Lyra looked around at the battlefield, at the broken machines, and at the humans who had survived. She realized that this single human had not only proven his own endurance, but had also shown the potential of an entire species. It was a revelation she could not dismiss. You have survived, she said softly, without weapons, without armor, without fear. You have endured where many would fail. I respect that, and I will not mock you again. Alex gave a faint smile. Thank you, that is all I needed. The day passed slowly. Alex and the humans worked to repair what they could, gather supplies, and prepare for the next challenges. Lyra watched from a distance, sometimes floating close to observe, sometimes leaving them to work in peace. She did not mock, she did not interfere. She had learned to respect the human who had endured and survived against all expectations. As evening fell, Alex sat near the campfire with his fellow soldiers. The wounds of battle were healing slowly, but their spirits were strong. They had followed him, learned from his endurance, and now felt a sense of pride and unity stronger than ever. Lyra approached again, descending quietly. Human, she said softly, you have shown me that strength is not always what I believed it to be. Patience, awareness, endurance, and care, these are true strength. I have learned from you. Alex looked at her calmly. Then perhaps we can learn from each other. Humans survive because we endure. Perhaps your people can too if they understand more than just force and weapons. She nodded slowly. Perhaps you have changed my understanding. And in doing so, you have changed how we will see humans from now on. Alex stood, feeling the weight of the day and the nights behind him, but also a quiet sense of peace. He had survived, endured, and proven the strength of the human spirit. Lyra had witnessed it, learned from it, and now respected it. The sun set, casting a warm glow across the battlefield. Lyra floated slightly above, her eyes thoughtful. She had mocked him once, doubted him, and expected failure. Now she had witnessed endurance, patience, and care that surpassed her expectations. She understood that humans were more resilient than she had been taught. Alex looked at her calmly. I have walked through danger without protection. I have endured pain and exhaustion. I have survived. Humans endure not because of armor or weapons, but because of will, choice, and care. Lyra nodded, understanding fully now. Then your people are truly remarkable. And you are extraordinary not for fighting, but for enduring, understanding, and showing patience. I respect you, Alex smiled faintly. Thank you, that is enough. The human soldiers watched silently, awe in their eyes. They had followed Alex through danger, learned from his patience, and now saw the alien princess acknowledging human endurance. It was a moment that would change their understanding forever. As night fell, the camp settled into quiet activity. The humans tended their wounds, prepared for tomorrow, and shared quiet words of encouragement. Alex stood watching the stars, tired but calm. He had endured, survived, and proven what humans could achieve without relying on armor or weapons. Lyra floated silently above, contemplating the human who had changed her perspective. She had mocked him, doubted him, and tested him, yet he had endured, survived, and taught her something she could not ignore. Humans had a strength beyond metal and power. It was patience, awareness, endurance, and care. It was quiet, steady, and unstoppable. Alex turned to his soldiers. We survived today, he said quietly. We will survive tomorrow. We endure, we adapt, and we move forward. That is what humans do. Ben nodded, Emily smiled faintly, and Lisa shook her head with pride. They had learned from him, followed him, and now understood the quiet strength he had shown. Lyra watched one last time before rising and moving back toward her people. She would carry the lesson of human endurance with her. She had seen one human survive against impossible odds, endure without armor or weapons, and remain calm under mockery and danger. She would remember this human, Alex Gray, and the strength he had shown would remain in her mind forever. Alex sat quietly by the fire, exhausted but at peace. He had walked through danger, survived, endured, and shown the quiet power of humanity. He had proven that strength was not in armor, not in weapons, not in displays of force, but in patience, awareness, endurance, and the choice to keep moving forward. And somewhere above, Lyra floated silently, watching the stars. She had learned a lesson she would never forget. Humans were stronger than she had believed, and Alex Grey had proven it in a way no one could deny. The battlefield was quiet now, the fires dying down, and the night settled peacefully. Humans and aliens alike had witnessed endurance, patience, and quiet strength that would shape the future. Alex had survived, not for glory, not for weapons, not for armor, but for something far greater, the enduring spirit of humanity. And in that quiet moment, the alien princess understood that the human before her was truly special, and that the lessons of endurance, patience, and will would never be forgotten.